Warning. The following work of fiction contains themes of suicide, sexual assault, suicidal ideations, depression, isolation, and alienation. If any of these topics is disturbing to the listener, it is highly advised they discontinue listening to this right now. Trauma. It's a word that often is tied to events that leave us emotionally, mentally, and physically damaged. It often cuts to the core of a person's being, forever changing what living feels like to that person. It can turn what should be the best years of your life into a living hell. It can act as a hand over your mouth to silence your screams. It can be the cold, hungry gaze of an abuser, or even the apathy of a trusted authority figure. It changes you. You are no longer who you were, but rather what it has made you into. You lose yourself to it. It takes and takes until you are left numb to everything. You might try to shoot or drink or snort the pain away, but you just end up feeling more empty and wordless than before. It's a monster that calls your mind its lair and will take any opportunity to ensure you never forget what birthed it. That's what trauma is. If you can't overcome it, trauma will eat you alive. It always started the same. I'd be asked to stay behind after gym class to clean up the pool. After I finished cleaning out the pool, her voice would come from behind me. She'd usher me into her office. Miss Banks was the gym teacher and old enough to be my mother. She'd run her hands over my shoulders and chest. Her hands would run through my hair and whisper invitations in my ears as she circled around me like a shark. Whenever I tried to raise an objection, she'd immediately, always, have a threat to counter it. Our exchanges had always consisted of my desperate attempts to quell her advances, only for a threat of expulsion to be uttered in response. The cold air of the office would lick at the icy sweat that ran down my back. To tell the truth, it's difficult to remember everything. I do, however, remember the feeling of growing dread each day would bring. After the final bell would ring, the environment would shift to the backlit form of her body in the pool's equipment storage room. In an instant, she was on top of me, panting and moaning. I shot up in bed. My body was slick with a cold sweat. I panted and wheezed as my lungs struggled to draw in fresh air. I climbed out of bed and felt the room starting to spin. The feeling had paused after a few moments. I threw my sheets and pillowcase into the washing machine. I gathered a change of clothes before entering my bathroom. I closed the door behind me. I lived alone, but old habits die hard. I turned on the shower and let it run until a thick fog of steam had filled the room. I undressed and entered the torrent of hot water. I sat on the floor of the shower and tucked my knees into my chest. The next hour was spent alternating between screaming and crying. My whole body trembled on the floor of the wet tiles. The hot water did nothing to wash away that dirty feeling of remembering all of it. I just wanted it all to go away. I never told anybody about it. For nearly 10 years, I buried it all, and did everything I could to keep it so. After I managed to pull myself together, I dried off with a towel. As I dabbed off the last of the water, my body started to feel heavy. I hastily tied the towel around my waist in a crude knot. I didn't dare to look in the mirror. The thought of seeing myself in such a state felt like I would be giving my nightmares the satisfaction of humbling me. After several deep and shaky breaths, I exited the bathroom and returned to my bedroom. I sat on the edge of my bed, eyeing 3 bright orange prescription bottles sitting on my nightstand. 1 for depression, 2 for anxiety, and 3 to help me sleep. I let out a dry laugh. I thought you were supposed to help me, not make me relive it all, I said dryly as I inspected the bottle of sleeping pills. For an instant, one fleeting moment, I felt the urge to just down the whole bottle. It'd be easy. No more being afraid of physical contact with women. No more sleepless nights. No more going to bed on the verge of an anxiety attack. No more anything. I twisted the cap off. When I came to my senses, with a frustrated shout, I threw the bottle against the wall, sending beige tablets colliding with the carpet, with a series of light tick noises. I'd almost done it. I was just minutes away from doing the unthinkable. I let out a bitter laugh as my body relaxed and slumped against the wall. A long sigh escaped my lips. My gaze fixed itself in the face of my alarm clock. It was 4 a.m. In 2 hours, I'd be at work in the university library, just checking records. I don't know when the exhaustion had gotten to me. All I knew was that my alarm was sounding, and that meant it was time to head to work. I took my pills and only spared the ones on the floor a passing glance. I threw on a white button-up shirt and a pair of brown cargo pants. I tried not to glance at my reflection in the mirror while brushing my teeth. I clipped my ID badge to my belt loop before locking the door behind me. I walked down the city streets in silence. Dawn was just starting to trace its golden fingertips in the windows several stories above me. I stopped walking. I suddenly felt overwhelmed by the beauty of the windows being bathed in golden radiance. As I resumed my walk, the smells of the flowers on the wind caused me to breathe in their sweet scents. For the first time I don't know how long, I felt pure and simple bliss. She was beside me before I knew it. She looked to be about my age. Her brown hair hung down over her back, and her skin reminded me of the color of an almond's husk. She gave me a passing smile before running towards the crosswalk ahead. I heard the sound of screeching tires getting close. The sound was coming up from around the corner. A red pickup truck whipped around the bend. I swallowed the lump in my throat. As the truck neared both of us, it was obvious it was going to collide with the crosswalk and slam right into where both of us were standing. I grabbed the girl's coat and used it to throw her to the side as the truck collided with my body. I felt the truck's front bumper slam into my rib cage before I was tossed to the asphalt. My body trembled with pain as a growing crowd circled around the truck and I. The wail of sirens started to get closer. I tried to move my arms and legs, but every time I would try to move one of my fingers or toes, a stabbing pain would flow through my nerve. My guess is some of them might have been broken. My vision was starting to fade. A growing darkness began to encompass my field of vision, slowly making it so that I could see practically nothing. My body started to feel heavy and cold. So was this it? Was this the way I was gonna die? Like some raccoon run down by a drunk driver? I'd just die here on the road. A smile crept across my lips. All the sounds around me, including the murmur of the growing crowd, had gone mute. Well, no more sleepless nights, I thought to myself as the world was bathed in darkness.